Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to take the material you've chosen and, well, pull out the really crucial insights you need. Fast, but thorough.
Exactly. You want to skip the noise, find those aha moments, get properly informed, but without, drowning in details.
That's the mission. Think of us as your guides.
You give us the source this time. It's some really interesting bits from Reinventing Beyond Ancient Wisdom of Japan, and we light up the path to understanding.
And today, that path takes us right into chapter 1. We're looking at Japan's Showa-Era. So, end of World War II up to, the late 20th century?
That's the period. And we're really zeroing in on the management style that drove Japan's big economic comeback.
The chapter sort of lays out how this model, things like lifetime employment, big focus on the group, built this super competitive corporate culture.
Right, globally competitive. But, and this is the core argument, the world today is, well, it's just a different beast altogether.
Totally. You've got digitalization, globalization, new ideas about how work should even happen.
And the source is arguing that some of the very things that made them successful then are actually holding them back now, hindering innovation.
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? The roots of today's problems are sometimes buried in yesterday's successes.
That's the tension, exactly. How do you learn from a successful past when you need, radical change for the future?
And the book digs into some surprising stuff,
Mhm.
like how that collectivist work culture wasn't just old tradition, it was actively built, forged, really, after the war.
Yeah, and the lifetime employment thing, we'll get into how it provided stability, sure, but also rigidity, a real double-edged sword.
And leadership, that focus on being on-site. We'll see how it drove amazing efficiency, but maybe, just maybe, blocked out some fresh ideas.
Sure.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Right, let's start with the basics, the characteristics, the strengths of that Showa-era management.
Collectivism and teamwork seem key.
They're the bedrock, according to the source. And it wasn't accidental. It was a deliberate response, to meeting quick recovery and maximum efficiency after the war.
And the effect was huge, wasn't it?
Hmm.
The book talks about unity, discipline, this strong team spirit harmony.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just vibes. It led directly to higher productivity. Think manufacturing kaizen, that continuous improvement idea, is like the prime example.
So it went deep, this collectivism.
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't just, let's work together. It created real belonging, loyalty, shared responsibility.
Kind of like those traditional big family or village society ideas the source mentions.
Exactly. The workplace was more than just a workplace. It was a community, which, was great for efficiency, but maybe less great for encouraging individual risk-taking later on.
It wasn't just a feeling, right? It was structured.
Very structured, clear roles for everyone. And then there was the Horenso communication culture.
Right, Horenso. Report, communicate, consult.
Yeah, it ensured information flowed, upwards for decisions, downwards for getting things done, a constant feedback loop.
So it wasn't just orders from the top.
No, the source talks about this interesting fusion. Top-down direction, yes, but also bottom-up suggestions. Especially during that intense rebuilding phase, people on the ground had input.
Sounds like everyone was pulling in the same direction. The book even says long working hours were seen as a virtue.
Which seems wild now, talking about work-life balance, but back then, yeah, it reinforced solidarity. And crucially, it meant low turnover. People stayed.
Which must have been amazing for developing talent long-term.
Hugely advantageous. So you put it all together, the collectivism, clear roles, communication, even the long hours, it created this incredibly stable, productive system.
And the source says even today, with project work and stuff, that core idea of a unified team still matters.
Fundamentally, yes. Okay, so we have this collectivist base. Let's layer on the next big piece. Lifetime employment? What was the idea there?
Job security, basically. Long-term security.
Right, and the payoff for employees was huge. Peace of mind, the source calls it. Not worrying about losing your job meant you could focus on work, on development, on life within the company context.
Peace of mind is valuable, definitely. But couldn't that also maybe make people a bit complacent, less driven?
That's the potential flip side we'll get to. But first, the upside. It built massive trust. The company gives security, the employee gives loyalty.
A reciprocal relationship. And the book says this trust was vital for long-term growth, especially when the economy was booming.
Precisely. And companies saw employees not as costs, but as assets worth investing in.
So lots of training, Education, passing knowledge down through the generations.
Exactly. Continuous development. And you can see how this ties neatly into the seniority system we need to discuss, too.
It wasn't just about keeping jobs. It was strategic talent building.
And that stability, the source notes, helped internal communication and trust, reinforce that teamwork and the on-site focus we mentioned.
Okay, but it wasn't perfect. What were the downsides?
The big one, inflexibility. When things changed, new tech, economic downturns, adjusting staff levels was really, really hard.
Yeah, hard to downsize if everyone expects a job for life. The post-bubble economy really showed that, didn't it?
Painfully so. And the other point the book raises is about competition, or the lack of it.
If promotion is mostly about how long you've been there, not how good you are.
What's the incentive for a brilliant young person to really push the boat out? It could dampen that competitive spirit.
So it worked well when things were stable and growing predictably.
Fundamentally, yes. It relied on that stability. Globalization really put the pressure on its limitations.
But the source still finds value in the ideas behind it, right? Like long-term talent development.
Absolutely. Investing in your people for the long haul, creating security so they can do their best work, those principles still hold water, even if the literal lifetime employment model doesn't fit everywhere now.
Okay, so how do they keep order in these growing companies? That brings us to the seniority system.
Its main job was maintaining order and stability, especially during that crazy post-war growth spurt.
Like, with companies expanding so fast, you needed some predictable structure for moving up.
Exactly. And it was tied directly to lifetime employment. Stick around, work hard, and you'd gradually move up in position and pay. Clear incentive for commitment.
So the focus was on long-term effort, practical experience, not necessarily quick wins.
Right, which also, maybe unintentionally, reduced internal dog-eat-dog competition, kept things more harmonious, as the source puts it.
And it helped pass skills down, too.
Hugely important for that.
Yeah.
Senior people were the repositories of knowledge. They trained the younger folks, essential in manufacturing, craftsmanship.
So it set up clear hierarchies, vertical relationships, streamlined command and control.
Made things clear. And for employees, the book suggests it provided motivation, long-term goals based on effort and just sticking with it.
But the downsides are pretty clear from today's perspective.
Very clear. Talented younger people could get overlooked, just waiting their turn. That can sap energy, stifle innovation. Not ideal in a fast-moving global economy.
Yeah, if promotion is just about time served, you risk losing your ambitious young stars. They'll feel blocked.
Definitely a risk. But again, the source pulls out lessons for today. Nurture talent long-term, yes, but balance evaluation, experience, and ability. And be transparent about roles and how people are treated.
Okay, let's switch gears to leadership. The source calls it focused on the field. What does that actually mean?
It means bosses, even executives, really valued hands-on, practical experience, being on-site.
Not just sitting in an office somewhere making theoretical plans.
Exactly. They were engaged with the reality of the work. And crucially, they listened to input from the people doing the work.
How did that affect decisions?
Made them more realistic, more grounded, the book argues, based on what was actually happening. This drove growth. Kaizen comes up again. Those small improvements often came from the front lines.
I can see how that would boost morale if your boss gets what you do and values your input.
You feel like you belong, like you're contributing meaningfully.
Right. And the source says it made management more agile, better able to respond to market changes.
If you understand the day-to-day deeply, you can potentially adapt quicker. You're closer to the action.
But there were risks, too, focusing too much on the field.
Yeah, the potential to miss the bigger picture, get lost in the operational weeds, and neglect broader strategy or industry shifts.
Or maybe decision-making slows down if everything needs field input.
That's another potential risk mentioned. But overall, it built trust. That principle of Sanjin Shugi comes up.
Ah, yes, the 3 reals: real site, real product, real facts.
Exactly. Go see for yourself. Understand the actual situation. That builds trust between leaders and employees.
And the book links this field-first idea to Japan's tech strengths, like in cars and electronics.
A key factor, it argues. But, like everything else, the world changed.
All right.
How does that field focus adapt now?
Needs balance, right? Keep the connection to reality, but mix in data, long-term strategy.
Leaders today need both the zoom in and the zoom out view. Okay, next up. Discipline and responsibility, a big emphasis in the Showa-Era. Why?
Unity and efficiency, especially right after the war. Rebuilding the country required a disciplined, responsible effort from everyone.
Made sense. How did it help organizations run smoothly?
Manufacturing is the key example again. Sticking to workflows, Managing time, carefully essential for coordination, efficiency, quality.
It sounds like it bred a strong sense of duty. Give your best effort. And this ties back to lifetime employment, seniority.
That expectation of long-term contribution. Fulfilling your role diligently made the whole system work better. Better cooperation.
It aligned with collectivism, too, individual roles contributing to the whole group's success.
And vital for quality control, building that high-quality Japanese brand reputation.
Absolutely. That reputation was earned through that discipline at every level.
Any downsides to so much discipline?
Well, the source hints it could suppress opinions, create a fear of failure. If the rules are rigid, are you going to speak up with a radical idea or risk experimenting?
So it could potentially stifle innovation. Finding that balance between discipline and flexibility, accepting failure as learning.
That's the tricky part. But the core idea is understanding your role, doing your job well for long-term stability. The source sees enduring value there.
Still relevant today, even with all the changes.
Definitely. You still need people committed to doing their part well to achieve goals, especially in this complex global environment.
Okay, let's look at the structure itself. Strong hierarchy, clear leadership system. What was the goal there?
Order, discipline, unified direction, and importantly, enabling quick decisions during that rapid growth phase.
And the hierarchy wasn't just job titles, but age, tenure fitting with that collectivist vertical society idea.
That's right. Everyone knew their place. Clear lines of authority. The benefit was speed decisions could flow down quickly, efficient workflows, especially in big factories.
And supervisors had a big training role, OJT, on-the-job training.
Crucial. Passing skills down, keeping knowledge in the company. Senior people weren't just bosses, they were mentors.
And it reinforced responsibility down the line.
It did. But you see the pattern, there are limitations to this top-down model.
Communication flow, maybe? Hard for ideas to travel up.
That's a key point. If it's mostly one way, you lose valuable insights from the front lines. It can also dampen employee initiative, creativity, reduce flexibility.
Which is tough in today's world, needing agility and diverse input.
Exactly. But again, the source finds strengths to learn from: discipline, technical knowledge transfer, maybe even rapid decision-making in certain situations.
So modern ideas might be about balancing hierarchy with more bottom-up feedback, rethinking OJT for collaboration, even remotely.
Yeah, and leadership itself needs to shift, less about just giving orders, more about supporting autonomy, fostering growth.
All right, let's talk about employee education and self-development. Big focus back then. Why?
It was seen as absolutely critical for building global competitiveness after the war. The goal was organizational growth, and that needed skilled people.
And OJT was central again. Senior people teaching practical skills.
Very central. Direct knowledge transfer, maintaining quality standards.
But it went beyond just OJT, right? Group
Yeah.
training, management program.
Oh, yes. Formal programs, too. New employee orientation, training for future leaders, building the talent pipeline, instilling the company culture.
And they encourage people to develop themselves too, outside formal training.
Definitely. Linked back to lifetime employment and seniority, your long-term growth benefited you and the company.
So companies might support getting qualifications, learning languages, specialized skills.
Often, yes. It was about creating a well-rounded, capable workforce.
And all this education helped spread the company culture, strengthened unity.
Big part of it. But were there challenges? The source mentions time commitment outside work hours.
Yeah, that sounds demanding. And maybe learning that didn't directly make money wasn't always valued.
Potentially. But today, continuous learning is non-negotiable, isn't it?
Absolutely. So how does the Showa-Era approach compare to now?
The emphasis on learning is still crucial, but the methods are changing. More employee-driven stuff, online courses, e-learning, and companies need better ways to track and support career development.
Okay, quality control and continuous improvement kaizen. This feels uniquely Japanese.
It really became a hallmark, especially in manufacturing post-WWII. A relentless commitment.
Aiming for, like, zero defects.
Pretty much. And it wasn't just management saying it, it was built into everyone's responsibility, using preventative systems.
And feedback from the field that on-site management idea was key.
Absolutely critical for driving improvements, which leads us to kaizen.
The small daily improvements driven by employees themselves.
Exactly. Not waiting for big top-down changes, but constant incremental refinement. Finding and fixing problems every day.
And you see the results in cars, electronics. building that reputation for reliability.
That high-quality, high-reliability brand was built on kaizen, essentially, eliminating waste, meticulous control.
It became a massive competitive advantage. Made in Japan meant reliable.
It really did, though the source does mention the pressure.
The link to discipline again. Constant pressure to avoid mistakes could be stressful.
Yeah, potentially increase mental strain.
So how does Kaizen fit in today?
Still hugely relevant for competitiveness, but now it needs integrating with new tech, IoT, AI, data analytics for quality control, combining that traditional Kaizen spirit with modern tools.
So the value of employee-driven improvement is still there, but maybe needs updating for today's collaborative environment.
Precisely. Harnessing that drive for improvement in new ways.
Okay, let's touch on corporate social responsibility. CSR, Showa-Era companies saw this as important.
Very much so, according to the source, especially in the post-war context. It wasn't just about profit, it was about responsibility to communities, to the nation's development.
Like providing jobs locally, helping with infrastructure, coexisting with the community.
Yes, fostering that mutual relationship. And on a national level, contributing to export competitiveness. This built trust with consumers, partners.
And they focused internally too. Employee welfare, housing, education, healthcare.
Seen as part of being a responsible company,
Right.
looking after your people, though the Soren points out contradiction.
Like environmental pollution during the high-growth years.
Exactly. That forced a reevaluation later on.
So how has CSR evolved since then?
Much broader now. Environmental sustainability, social challenges, sustainable growth are central. But that core Showa insight, that long-term trust, comes from contributing to society and a sustainable future that remains vital.
The idea of the company that contributes to society is still powerful.
Absolutely. Long-term success is tied to the health of society and the environment.
Finally, long-term strategic management. Showa companies prioritize this over short-term profit.
That's the key takeaway. Stable, sustained growth was the goal, not just next quarter's results.
So investing in the future, R&D, talent, strong foundations.
Yes, management clearly prioritized sustained growth, willing to invest heavily in R&D, even if it hit short-term profits, because it ensured long-term competitiveness. Think automotive, electronics again.
And talent development, lifetime employment, OJT, that was part of the long-term strategy too.
A core element, building the workforce for the future, and building strong organizational foundations, clear roles, standard processes for stability.
Sounds like it helped with risk management too. A stable base to weather storms.
Definitely. Building resilience against economic ups and downs, diversification played a role too.
It's quite different from the pressure for quick returns you often see today.
It is. And the source notes that challenge shareholder focus on short-term results. But it argues that long-term thinking is still crucial for sustainable success, even with rapid change.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive into Showa-Era management, what are the big takeaways for you, the listener?
Well, we've seen a system built on collectivism, long-term thinking, focusing on people and quality. These were massive strengths that fueled Japan's economic miracle.
Absolutely. But we've also seen the limitations, how those same strengths could become weaknesses in today's faster, more globalized digital world.
Right. It's fascinating how these historical practices offer lessons, things to potentially adapt, but also warnings about rigidity. It shows how culture, strategy, and the wider environment are all linked. Hopefully you got some of those aha moments.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. Thinking about these trade-offs, stability versus flexibility, tradition versus innovation, what bits of the Showa philosophy might, maybe surprisingly, still be relevant or adaptable for businesses facing today's challenges? What can you take away and apply in your own situation?
It's definitely food for thought. We hope you'll reflect on these insights, maybe even go back to the source for more detail.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.